Online dating promises love, excitement, and connection. But for some it turns into a nightmare they can never forget. Behind every smiling profile picture may hide a dark truth, a dangerous stranger, or even a life-threatening trap. These aren't just cautionary tales. They're real experiences that will chill you to the core. Welcome to Veil of Dread Horror Stories, where we bring you the darkest and most haunting true stories. If you're ready to uncover the terrifying side of online dating, stay with us till the end. And don't forget to subscribe to Veil of Dread Horror Stories for more true horror that hides in plain sight. Story 1. The Perfect Match That Almost Killed Me. I never thought something as simple as downloading a dating app would nearly cost me my life. Like many others, I was lonely, curious, and maybe just a little bit desperate to feel a connection with someone new. I had been single for over a year, and my friends constantly told me that online dating was the way people met these days. At first, I brushed it off, but after too many Friday nights spent scrolling through social media, I gave in. I created an account, uploaded a few carefully chosen photos, and wrote a short bio about myself. Within hours, the matches started pouring in. One of those matches was Ethan. He looked like everything I thought I wanted. Tall, clean-cut, and with a smile that felt warm and genuine. His profile said he worked in IT, loved hiking, and had a dog. Nothing about him seemed threatening. We started chatting, and his messages were witty, charming, and surprisingly attentive. Unlike other guys I'd talked to online, Ethan asked real questions. He remembered the little things I mentioned, like how I hated pineapple on pizza, or how my favorite childhood memory was catching fireflies in the summer. He made me feel like I mattered. After just a week of constant texting, late-night phone calls, and video chats, I felt like I already knew him. My friends warned me not to get attached too quickly, but I ignored them. For the first time in ages, someone made me feel special. So when Ethan suggested we meet in person, I didn't hesitate. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown on a Saturday afternoon. It was a safe, public place, and I figured nothing could possibly go wrong there. When the day came, I was nervous but excited. I dressed carefully, wanting to look good without seeming like I'd tried too hard. As I walked into the cafe, scanning the room, I saw him, sitting at a corner table, exactly like his photos. Relief washed over me. He wasn't a catfish. He wasn't some middle-aged creep pretending to be someone else. Our first meeting was wonderful. Ethan was even more charming in person. He laughed at my jokes, complimented my eyes, and told me he couldn't believe how lucky he was that I'd swiped right. We talked for nearly 3 hours, sipping coffee and losing track of time. When it was finally time to go, he walked me to my car and gave me a gentle hug. There was no pressure, no awkwardness, just a sweet goodbye and the promise to see each other again soon. That night, he texted me to say he had a great time, and I couldn't stop smiling. It felt like maybe, just maybe, I'd finally found something real. Over the next couple of weeks, our dates became more frequent. Dinners, walks in the park, movie nights. Ethan seemed almost too good to be true. He was always polite, always attentive. But looking back now, there were subtle red flags I should have noticed. For example, Ethan never let me pick where we went. He always insisted on choosing the location, and it was usually somewhere close to where he lived. He avoided introducing me to his friends or co-workers, saying he wanted to keep things just between us for now. He also got oddly possessive. If I didn't text back within an hour, he'd send multiple messages asking if I was mad or if I was ignoring him. At the time, I brushed it off as just him being passionate. The night everything changed was supposed to be simple. A casual dinner at his apartment. He'd cooked for me once before, and it had been lovely. I drove over, bottle of wine in hand, excited to see him. His apartment was in a quiet part of town, not far from a wooded area. The building itself was older, a little run down, but nothing alarming. When I stepped inside, something felt different. The blinds were drawn tight, and the air smelled faintly of bleach. Ethan greeted me with his usual smile, but there was something in his eyes, something colder, something that made me uneasy. I tried to ignore the feeling. We sat down to eat, but I noticed he barely touched his food. Instead, he kept watching me closely, as if studying my every movement. Halfway through the meal, he casually asked, "Do your friends know you're here tonight?" The question caught me off guard. I laughed nervously and said, "Of course they do. I always tell someone where I'm going." It was a lie. I hadn't told anyone. But something about his expression made me want to protect myself. He smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's smart," he said softly. "Very smart." The rest of the evening felt strained. I made an excuse about needing to get up early and said I should head home. He didn't argue, but when he walked me to the door, he leaned in closer than usual and whispered, "You know, you're not going anywhere I don't want you to." My stomach dropped. I laughed it off nervously, hoping he was joking, but his face stayed serious for just a moment too long. I left quickly, my heart pounding, and as I drove away, a strange dread settled over me. Something was wrong. The next few days, Ethan bombarded me with texts and calls. When I didn't respond fast enough, he accused me of losing interest. When I tried to gently explain that I needed some space, his tone shifted from pleading to threatening. He said things like, "I know where you live, and you can't just ghost me like some random guy. I'm not like other men." I started to panic. I blocked his number, deleted the app we met on, and tried to cut him off completely. But then small things began happening that made my blood run cold. One morning, I found a bouquet of dead flowers left on my doorstep. Another day, my car windshield had the word "liar" scratched faintly into the glass. At night, I swore I saw someone standing just beyond the tree line near my apartment, watching. I went to the police, but without solid evidence, they said there wasn't much they could do. "Block him, change your number, and be careful," they advised. But it wasn't that simple. The breaking point came one night when I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of my doorknob rattling. My heart froze as I realized someone was trying to get in. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, and whispered what was happening. The dispatcher told me to stay on the line. The rattling stopped, followed by footsteps retreating into the night. By the time the police arrived, no one was there. But when they checked outside, they found muddy footprints leading straight to my back door. I knew then that it had to be Ethan. That night, I packed a bag and went to stay with a friend. Over the next few weeks, I filed for a restraining order, changed my locks, and even considered moving. Slowly, the incidents stopped. I never saw Ethan again. Maybe he got scared after the police visit, or maybe he moved on to someone else. But the fear he left behind never truly disappeared. Online dating had seemed harmless at first, a chance to meet someone new, maybe even fall in love. But it taught me the hard way that you never really know who's on the other side of the screen. Sometimes the perfect match is just a mask hiding something much darker. And I'll never forget the night I realized that my dream guy was actually a nightmare waiting to happen. Story 2, The Man in the Mirror. I always thought I was careful when it came to online dating. I wasn't naive. I'd read the articles, heard the horror stories, and promised myself I'd never let something like that happen to me. But sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who seem to know exactly how to slip past your guard. His name was Caleb. At least that's what he told me. We matched on a popular dating app late one night when I couldn't sleep. His profile caught my eye immediately. He wasn't ridiculously handsome, but he looked approachable. His smile seemed genuine, and his bio was short and simple. Looking for someone real, coffee over clubs, conversations over small talk. I liked that. It felt refreshing compared to all the overdone cliches I usually saw. I swiped right, not really expecting much, but within minutes, we matched, and almost instantly he messaged me. From the very beginning, Caleb seemed different. His ihabitina messages weren't the typical, "Hey, beautiful," or "wide." He asked about my favorite books, the last movie that made me cry, and what kind of person I thought I was becoming. His words felt thoughtful, deliberate. Talking to him was addictive, like finally finding someone who spoke the same language as me. Over the next 2 weeks, we talked constantly. Texts all day, phone calls that stretched past midnight, even a few video chats. On screen, Caleb looked exactly like his pictures, a little scruffy with dark hair and eyes that seemed kind. He laughed easily, listened intently, and never once made me feel uncomfortable. When he asked if we could meet in person, I didn't hesitate. We agreed to meet at a bookstore cafe in the city, a place I knew well and felt safe in. The day of the date, I was nervous but excited. I arrived early, browsing the shelves to calm my nerves. When Caleb finally walked in, my stomach fluttered. He looked just like himself, maybe even better in person. He smiled when he saw me, and for a moment I felt like all those weeks of talking had led to something real. The date went well, almost too well. We talked for hours, losing track of time as we sipped coffee and wandered through the aisles. At one point, he picked up a book I loved and quoted a line from it perfectly, making me laugh. By the end of the night, I was smitten. But as I was about to leave, something strange happened. We hugged goodbye, and as I pulled away, I noticed his reflection in the glass door behind him. For the briefest moment, it didn't match his movements. His hand was still raised in the reflection, even though he'd already dropped it in real life. I froze. My brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Caleb didn't seem to notice anything was wrong. I shook it off, telling myself not to be paranoid. But that was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, we kept seeing each other. Caleb was attentive, sweet, and seemed genuinely interested in building something with me. But odd little things kept happening. Whenever I was with him, mirrors seemed off. In a restaurant bathroom, I glanced into the mirror and saw him standing closer to me than he actually was. At his apartment, his reflection lingered a second longer when he moved. I started to feel like I was going crazy, but I didn't dare say anything. What would I even tell him? Hey, your reflection doesn't behave normally? One night after dinner at his place, I excused myself to the bathroom. When I washed my hands and looked up, my blood ran cold. In the mirror, Caleb was standing directly behind me, his face inches from mine, his expression twisted into something dark and hungry. I spun around in terror, only to find him still sitting on the couch in the other room, casually scrolling his phone. I nearly screamed. I told myself I was imagining things, that stress was making me hallucinate. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Something about Caleb wasn't human. The breaking point came 2 nights later. He invited me over again, saying he had a surprise for me. When I arrived, the apartment was dimly lit, candles scattered everywhere. At first, I thought it was romantic, until I noticed that every reflective surface, mirrors, picture frames, even the TV screen, was uncovered and facing me. "Why did you set it up like this?" I asked nervously. He just smiled. "I wanted you to really see me." My chest tightened. Something in his tone made my skin crawl. I tried to laugh it off, but my voice shook. "This is a little weird, Caleb." He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto mine. "You've noticed it, haven't you? The mirrors, they don't lie. They show what's real." My heart thudded in my ears. I tried to back away, but he grabbed my wrist. Tight, too tight. His smile widened, and in the reflection behind him, his face warped into something monstrous. His eyes were black voids, his mouth stretched unnaturally wide, filled with jagged teeth. I screamed and shoved him, breaking free just long enough to run for the door. He didn't chase me, but his voice echoed through the apartment, chilling me to the bone. "You can't run from the truth. The mirrors will always show you what I am." I never looked back. I blocked his number, deleted the app, and prayed I'd never see him again. For days, I jumped at every shadow, every sound. But the worst part was the mirrors. Even after I cut Caleb out of my life, sometimes when I looked at my reflection, I swore I saw him standing behind me, watching, smiling. I never told anyone the full story. How could I? Who would believe me? To everyone else, Caleb was just another guy I met online who didn't work out. But I know better. He wasn't just a bad date. He wasn't even human. And sometimes, late at night, when I catch movement in the corner of a mirror, I wonder if he's still waiting for me, on the other side of the glass. Story 3. The Vanishing Date. I wasn't the kind of person who usually trusted dating apps. I had heard too many bad experiences from friends, and honestly, the idea of meeting a complete stranger from the internet always made me uneasy. But after moving to a new city for work, I felt lonelier than ever. My co-workers had their own lives, and I spent most nights scrolling my phone in a silent apartment. One night, after too much wine and too little self-control, I downloaded a popular app. I told myself I'd just look around, no commitments. Within an hour, I matched with a man named Marcus. Marcus's profile was different from the others. His pictures weren't overly polished, but he looked real, handsome in a rugged kind of way, with kind eyes and a crooked smile. His bio was short. Adventurer, dog lover, looking for someone who likes late-night drives and good conversation. Our first chat was easy, natural. He wasn't pushy, didn't immediately ask for my number. We talked about music, old TV shows, and our favorite places in the city. He told me he had grown up here and knew all the hidden spots that tourists never found. It felt refreshing, safe. After a week of talking, Marcus suggested we meet in person. He offered to pick me up and take me to one of his favorite places just outside the city, a little lake surrounded by woods. Something about the idea felt romantic, almost cinematic. I hesitated at first, but he reassured me. "I'll drive, I'll bring snacks, you just bring yourself." Against my better judgment, I agreed. The night of the date, Marcus arrived right on time. His car, an old black sedan, pulled up to my apartment, and when he stepped out, I was relieved. He looked exactly like his photos. He greeted me with a warm smile, and I felt my nerves ease. The drive started off well. He played soft music, asked me about my day, and made me laugh with stories about his dog. But as we left the city lights behind and the roads grew darker, I started to feel uneasy. The further we drove, the fewer cars we saw. "Where exactly is this lake?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Just a little further," he said with a grin. "Trust me, it's worth it." I forced a smile, but something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. Finally, after nearly 40 minutes, he turned down a narrow dirt road. Trees closed in on both sides, their branches scratching against the car. My unease grew. "Are you sure this is the right way?" He didn't answer at first. His hands tightened on the wheel, his eyes fixed ahead. When he finally spoke, his tone was flat. "Yeah, we're almost there." The road ended at a small clearing, and beyond it, I saw the lake, a dark, still surface reflecting the moonlight. It was beautiful, but the isolation terrified me. No houses, no streetlights, no sign of anyone else. Marcus parked the car and turned off the engine. The silence was deafening. "Let's get out," he said. I hesitated. My instinct screamed at me to stay inside, but I didn't want to seem paranoid. I followed him out, wrapping my jacket tighter around me. We stood at the edge of the water for a while. He pointed out constellations, told me stories about coming here as a kid. I tried to relax, but every sound, the rustle of leaves, the splash of water, made me jump. Then Marcus's tone shifted. He stopped talking, his gaze fixed on me in a way that made my skin crawl. "You're even prettier in person," he said softly, too softly. I forced a laugh. "Thanks." He stepped closer. "You know, no one ever comes out here this late. It's just us." My heart raced. I took a step back, but he mirrored me. Suddenly I realized how stupid I'd been. No one knew where I was. I hadn't shared my location with a friend, hadn't told anyone about Marcus. If something happened to me out here, no one would find me. "I think we should go back," I said, trying to sound casual. His smile disappeared. "Why? Don't you trust me?" The way he said it sent a chill through me. I shook my head quickly. "No, it's not that. I'm tired. Long day at work." For a moment he just stared at me. Then, without warning, he grabbed my wrist. His grip was tight, painful. "You don't want to leave yet," he said firmly, almost like a command. Panic surged through me. I yanked my arm free and took a step back. Let go, Marcus. This isn't funny." He tilted his head, his expression unreadable. Then, just as suddenly, he smiled again. "Relax, I was joking." But I didn't believe him. "I'm going back to the car," I said, my voice trembling. He didn't stop me, but I could feel his eyes on my back as I hurried across the clearing. My hands shook as I fumbled with the door handle. When I finally got inside, I locked the doors and tried to steady my breathing. Marcus walked slowly toward the car, that same unsettling smile on his face. For a moment, I thought he was going to try to get in, but instead he leaned down to the window and whispered, "You'll come back. They always do." My blood ran cold. I didn't wait to hear more. I started the engine and sped down the dirt road, my hands white-knuckled on the wheel. In the rearview mirror, I saw Marcus standing in the clearing, watching me drive away. I didn't stop until I was back in the city, surrounded by lights and people. I parked on a busy street, turned off the car, and sat there shaking for nearly an hour. When I finally checked my phone, I saw dozens of messages from Marcus. "Where did you go? I wasn't finished talking to you. You can't just leave like that." I blocked his number immediately. The next day, when I checked the app, his profile was gone, completely erased, almost like he'd never existed. For weeks afterward, I felt like I was being watched. I'd catch glimpses of a black sedan in my neighborhood, only for it to vanish when I looked again. At night, I'd wake up certain that I'd heard footsteps outside my window. Eventually, the sightings stopped. Maybe Marcus moved on. Maybe he found someone else to lure out to that lake. But even now, years later, I can't look at a dating app without remembering his words. "You'll come back. They always do." And I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't run when I did. Story 4. The roommate he never mentioned. When I first started online dating, I promised myself I'd never be reckless. I'd meet people in public places, I'd tell friends where I was going, and I'd listen to my instincts if something felt off. For the most part, I stuck to those rules. But sometimes charm and persistence can wear down even the strongest walls. That's how I ended up meeting Daniel. Daniel wasn't my usual type. He didn't have the polished, gym-sculpted look a lot of guys on dating apps showed off. Instead, he had an easy, boyish grin, messy hair, and an energy that came through even in his texts. He was funny, quick-witted, and always seemed genuinely interested in what I had to say. When he teased me, it didn't feel mean. It felt like he really wanted to know me. After a couple of weeks of chatting and phone calls, he asked if I'd like to come over to his apartment for dinner. He said he loved cooking and wanted to prove he could make more than instant ramen. Normally, I would have said no. I barely knew him, but he had a way of making me feel comfortable. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The night of the date, I arrived at his apartment building, a slightly shabby complex on the edge of downtown. Daniel greeted me at the door with a goofy apron and flour on his hands. I laughed, instantly more at ease. His apartment was small but cozy, decorated with mismatched furniture and warm lighting. Dinner was surprisingly delicious, homemade pasta with garlic bread. We ate, talked, and laughed until my cheeks hurt. Everything about the evening felt normal, safe. But as I was helping him clear the dishes, I heard something strange, a faint scratching sound, like nails dragging against wood. "What was that?" I asked, pausing mid-step. Daniel glanced toward the hallway leading to his bedroom, then quickly looked back at me. "Old pipes," he said smoothly. "This building makes all kinds of noises." I wanted to believe him, but something about the way he avoided my eyes inenstalled me. Later, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, the scratching came again, louder this time, followed by a soft thump, like something falling. I stiffened, glancing at Daniel. "Seriously, what is that?" He sighed and muted the TV. "Okay, don't freak out," he said carefully. "But I have a roommate." I frowned. "A roommate? You never mentioned that." "It's complicated," he said quickly. "He's reclusive. Doesn't really like people. That's why I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to scare you off." The explanation made little sense, but I tried to let it go. After all, lots of people have roommates. Maybe his was just socially awkward. But the noises continued, scratching, shuffling, sometimes even a low muttering that made my skin prickle. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "I think I should go," I said, standing up. Daniel grabbed my hand gently but firmly. "Please, don't. He won't bother us. Just ignore it." But I couldn't ignore it. Something about the noises, the way Daniel's eyes flicked nervously toward the hallway, the locked door at the end. It all felt wrong. I left that night with a knot of unease in my stomach. Over the next few days, Daniel texted me constantly, apologizing for the weird vibe and begging me to come back. Against my better judgment, I did. The second visit was much the same. Wonderful conversation, good food, laughter, but always in the background, the scratching and muttering from behind the locked bedroom door. Finally, I couldn't keep quiet. "Daniel, what's going on? Who is your roommate?" His smile faltered. He hesitated, then whispered, "It's my brother." "Your brother? He's not well," Daniel admitted. "He hasn't been right for years. He doesn't leave the room. I take care of him. It's just easier if people don't know." Something in his tone made my blood run cold. It wasn't pity or concern. It was annoyance, like his brother was a burden, not family. That night, as I was leaving, I swore I heard a voice behind the door whisper, "Help me." I froze, my hand on the doorknob. Daniel appeared behind me instantly, his smile gone, his voice sharp. "Don't!" I jumped back, heart pounding. He stared at me with an intensity I hadn't seen before. For a moment his mask slipped, and I saw something darker underneath. I didn't argue. I left quickly and didn't go back for weeks. But Daniel didn't let me go so easily. He sent messages every day, apologizing, explaining, begging. He swore he loved me, that I was the only one who understood him. I tried to cut him off, but he always found a way back into my inbox. Finally, one night, against all logic, I agreed to see him again. One last time. When I arrived at his apartment, something felt different. The lights were dimmer, the air heavier. Daniel seemed tense, his smile forced. As we sat down to eat, the noises from the locked room grew louder than ever, scratching, pounding, even a desperate cry. My hands shook as I put down my fork. "Daniel, that's not normal. He needs help." His eyes darkened. "He doesn't need help. He needs to stay in there." Fear gripped me. "What do you mean?" He leaned closer, his voice low. "He's dangerous. You don't understand. If I let him out, you'd regret it." The pounding from the room grew frantic, the voice inside screaming, "Please, please, let me out." I shot to my feet, my heart racing. "Daniel, open that door." His expression twisted into something cold, something I didn't recognize. "No." For a split second, we just stared at each other. Then I ran. I bolted for the front door, fumbling with the lock. Behind me, I heard Daniel shouting, but I didn't look back. I flew down the stairs, out into the street, and didn't stop running until I reached my car. I never saw Daniel again. I blocked his number, deleted the app, and avoided that part of town completely. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear that voice in my head, the voice from behind the locked door. "Help me." And I'll never know the truth, whether Daniel was protecting me from his brother or hiding his brother from me. Story 5. The Date Who Wouldn't Leave. I've always been a little too trusting. My friends call me soft-hearted, the kind of person who gives too many chances. Maybe that's why I ended up in the situation I did, trapped in my own apartment with a man I'd barely met, realizing too late that kindness can be a dangerous weakness. His name was Liam. We matched on a dating app after I'd been on it for only a few days. Liam wasn't the most attractive guy I'd seen, but his smile was disarming, and his messages were thoughtful. He didn't open with a cheesy pickup line or a crude joke. Instead, he asked about my favorite comfort food and what my perfect Sunday looked like. It was refreshing. For a couple of weeks we texted nonstop. He was always quick to reply, always seemed eager to hear from me. I liked the attention, even if sometimes it felt overwhelming. When he asked if he could come over to my place for a casual dinner and a movie, I hesitated. Normally, I would never invite a stranger into my home, but he'd worn me down with his charm, and I thought, why not? That night, Liam arrived carrying takeout and a six-pack of beer. He was friendlier in person than even in his texts, laughing, telling stories, complimenting me in ways that felt genuine. For the first hour, I thought maybe I'd been too cautious all along. But as the night went on, little things started to feel off. For one, Liam made himself a little too comfortable. He kicked off his shoes, stretched out across my couch like he owned it, and flipped through my streaming apps without asking. At first, I brushed it off, telling myself he was just relaxed. But then he started making comments that unsettled me. "You don't lock your windows?" he asked casually, glancing toward the half-open blinds. I frowned. "I live on the 3rd floor. Nobody's climbing up here." He smirked. "You'd be surprised what people can do when they want something bad enough." I laughed nervously, but the way he looked at me when he said it made my stomach tighten. When the movie ended, I stood up, stretching, and said it was getting late. "I've got an early morning tomorrow," I hinted. But Liam didn't move. He just grinned and said, "I don't mind. I'll stay a little longer." I laughed awkwardly. "No, I mean, I need to sleep." His grin faded. "Already? We're just getting started." Something about the tone of his voice made my chest tighten. He wasn't joking. I tried to be polite, offering to call him a ride, but he waved me off. "I'll just crash here. Your couch is fine." My heart skipped. No, that's not going to work." His eyes narrowed slightly, his friendly demeanor cracking. "Why not? Don't you trust me?" I forced a smile, hiding my growing panic. "It's not about that. I don't let people stay over this soon." For a long moment he didn't move. Then slowly he leaned back against the couch, crossing his arms. "You invited me here. You fed me. You let me into your home. And now you want me to leave?" The way he said it sent shivers down my spine. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. I stood my ground. "Yes, I want you to leave." The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Liam smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Fine, if that's what you want." Relief washed over me as he stood up, put on his shoes, and walked toward the door. But just as I reached to unlock it, he suddenly leaned close, his breath hot against my ear. "You shouldn't invite people in if you don't know how to get rid of them." I froze. Before I could respond, he was gone, slipping out into the hallway with that same unsettling smile. I locked the door immediately, my hands shaking. For the rest of the night, I barely slept, jumping at every sound. But it didn't end there. The next morning, I found a sticky note pressed against my door. "You looked so peaceful sleeping." My blood ran cold. How could he have seen me? My blinds were closed, my windows locked. Over the next week, more notes appeared, tucked under my door, slipped into my mailbox, even taped to my car. I had a great time. "We're not done yet." "Why aren't you answering me?" I blocked his number, deleted the app, and tried to convince myself he'd get bored. But then came the night I heard footsteps outside my window. Slow, deliberate, circling the building. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, there was no sign of him. They told me to be careful, to change my locks, to maybe stay with a friend. I considered moving, but before I could make any big decisions, the notes suddenly stopped, just like that. Weeks passed without incident, and I started to breathe easier. Maybe Liam had finally given up. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because sometimes when I'm alone at night, I swear I hear faint footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment, pausing by my door, waiting. And every time, I remember his words. "You shouldn't invite people in if you don't know how to get rid of them."